In October 2023, I released a video with some of my favourite football facts. Watch it, it's awesome, I'll even give you the link. But there's also a load of funny, interesting or just bizarre football stories out there that don't necessarily qualify as facts or are long enough to fill a video, but I find interesting nonetheless. And that's what this video is, a collection of funny or weird football stories, facts, tales and quirks. You'll see funny goals, nutty social media stories, odd facts and a bit of everything else in the world of football. No further intro needed, let's get into it. Before coming on as a sub in Liverpool's 9-0 win over Bournemouth, Bobby Clark was sat next to James Milner on the bench. What's mad is that Milner played in the game for Newcastle alongside Bobby's dad, Lee Clark, 17 years before, when Bobby himself was still just a baby. And talking of age, Romario was given special permission to play at the age of 58 in the Rio State Championship, which was to fulfill a dream of playing next to his son, Romarinho. Of course he's named Romarinho, why wouldn't he be? So he came off the bench in the dying minutes to play alongside his son, which was lovely. It's well known that as our type, 57-year-old Kazuyoshi Miura is the oldest active pro footballer, which meant that he played alongside a 44-year-old Shunsuke Nakamura until he retired. Imagine that, having two attackers with a combined age of 100. Anyway, Miura is still a decade and a half off the record set by Eel Dean Bahara, who in 2020 became the oldest ever footballer in a pro match when he played up front, aged roughly 74 years and 4 months. That's 74 years. And just to really take the piss with the records, he also scored a penalty to become the oldest ever player to score in an official game. He did ask his opponents not to make any crunching tackles on him, which makes me wonder just how legit the record is really, but nonetheless he went into the history books and he even got a certificate from Guinness World Records. While there have been Welsh and Scottish clubs in the English league system, there has never been one from Northern Ireland, but they did come close in the 90s. Previously confidential papers revealed that the then Prime Minister Tony Blair was pushing a proposal for Wimbledon to be relocated to Belfast in Northern Ireland and to be renamed Belfast United. Discussions also included plans for a new 40,000-seater stadium and an academy for sport, which was to be a positive unifying force in a divided city. The idea was ultimately rejected and Wimbledon instead announced their intention to relocate to Milton Keynes in 2001, which went down just as well with the fans. Talking of geography, during the CAF Confederations Cup in April 2024, RS Berkane rocked up with a kit with a map of Morocco on the chest for their match with USM Alger, but the map included Western Sahara, a disputed region which is the basis for tensions between Algeria and Morocco, which has led to the border between the two countries being firmly shut. When Berkane arrived in Algeria for the first leg of their semi-final, customs confiscated their kit, but Berkane went to the stadium for the match anyway and just refused to come out the dressing room. The CAF disciplinary committee actually sided with Berkane and awarded them a 3-0 win. Alger returned for the second leg in Morocco, but in a little tit-for-tat pettiness, they refused to play, and that match was also awarded as a 3-0 win to Berkane. Some examples of fans going to extreme measures to support their team include when Magdeburg fans turned up to the match with massive arrows to show the team where the goal is after they hadn't scored for 5 matches, which did work as they scored, yay! But lost the match 2-1, boo. And when Clermont were awarded 2 penalties against Angers, their fans tried to distract the taker by mooning, but they were the butt of the joke as the tactic failed on both occasions and Angers lost 2-1. From butts to balls, as Stuttgart protested privately owned clubs when they played RB Leipzig, with the silent treatment from the fans in the first few minutes and then a volley of tennis balls thrown onto the pitch. And Dortmund supporters interrupted their 4-0 victory over Cologne by throwing chocolate coins onto the pitch in protest against plans of the league's TV rights. But that's nothing compared to the Rosario derby between Rosario Central and Newell's Old Boys, which was obviously delayed when a fan threw a hand grenade onto the pitch. Hand grenade. Back in the 78 World Cup, referee Clive Thomas caused a big bang of his own when he blew the whistle just as Zico's header was about to hit the net. This allowed the goal and the match finished 1-1. Well, we needed a modern day sequel and we got it in 2023 in Real Valladolid's match with Valencia, when for some reason the referee decided to blow for half-time just as Sergio Escudero's shot was hit in the back of the net, and the club owned by R9 went on to lose the match 3-0. No discussion on dodgy decisions is complete without a section on VAR, when in 2019 a referee in Bolivia signalled the VAR symbol with his hands when awarding the penalty, despite VAR not being in use at the time. In a separate match in Bolivia, as officials struggled to get used to the system after it was implemented, there were 42 minutes of added time at the end of one match after the officials took 17 minutes to make a decision over one of the goals, which still somehow seems slightly quicker than decisions over here, and the referee was later suspended. Not that not having VAR is an excuse, as they could just do what one crafty referee did over in Egypt, when he used a video on a fan's phone to overturn a decision like his own little personal VAR. It didn't end well for him as he needed a police escort from the pitch and was later suspended for his actions. Or they could have just pretended like in the Serie B match between Ascoli and Reggiana, when referee Francesco Meraviglia called for intervention from VAR, even though Serie B didn't have VAR. So after a few blank looks, the ref stuck to his original decision to disallow the goal, which luckily for him was correct. But no referee intervention is more impactful than the one in Liga MX during the match between Cruz Azul and Toluca, when referee Oscar Macias blocked a goal-bound shot from Cruz Azul's Jonathan Rodriguez. Did Macias apologise? He calmly awarded a goal kick and walked away like a boss. But you can't talk about football without mentioning the players who make the game what it is, such as when Martin Dubravka won a winner's medal for the EFL Cup, even though his Newcastle team lost to Man United in the final, as he'd played 2 matches in the early rounds of the Cup when on loan at United. Or when Austin FC defender Kit Keller got confused for a moment and gifted a pass to his ex-teammate Jared Stroud to score, seemingly forgetting that he'd moved teams. In October 2023, striker Olivier Giroud went in goal after Mike Magnon's red card. Following a decent save, the club then added the goalkeeper shirt with his name to their online store, which sold out almost instantly, and Serie A officially named him in goal for the team of the week. And Deo Upamecano complained of sore throats during matches, so he hired an opera singer who helped him use his vocal cords more gently to improve his communication. Really. More player craftiness, like when Iago Aspas scored in Celta Vigo's match against Valencia and seemed to sustain an injury while doing so. And knowing that he'd likely be out of action, he whipped off his shirt in celebration, collected his 5th yellow card of the season, knowing that he'd serve his suspension while recovering from injury. Clever. The craftiness continues with final keeper Justin Balo, when he came off his line to prevent a quick counter, conceded the throw-in, then quickly grabbed the spare ball and chucked it into play to stop the game as he was out of goal. When Norway ace Martin Ødegaard signed for Arsenal, TV viewers voted him the 2nd best player on the pitch in the first match against Man United, and by the 75th minute he'd overtaken Bruno Fernandes as the man of the match. The problem with this is that he didn't come off the bench until the 83rd minute, so there's no way that he could have won. Okay, that was bad. Roma legend Daniele De Rossi wore a disguise of fake nose and glasses to watch the derby match against Lazio in peace at the Stadio Olimpico. And talking of not being recognised, in 2020 Marcus Thuram arrived at the San Siro for a Champions League match against Inter and was denied entry by security, who failed to recognise him. In desperation he googled his own name and showed the image to the security, who let him in. A handful of weird transfers now. Romanian defender Marius Chora moved for 15 kilograms of sausages, which I covered in my first ever short, which is cringe when I watch it back. And a couple of transfers that didn't happen, such as when Juventus posted on X that had signed Arda Güler, which caused a bit of a storm, but then had to admit that their account had been hacked. And when Spanish side Racing Murcia announced that they'd signed Julian Lescott, even though he retired 3 years before, a move that's so surprising that Lescott himself didn't even know about it. Social media's exploded the last few years, so it's only right that football gets in on the act, such as when manager Dean Smith signed for Charlotte FC, and the club posted an image of him signing the contract on social media. What's wrong with that, you ask? Well, nothing, until you zoom in on the contract, which reveals some interesting terms, such as making 1 TikTok per month, the mascot is allowed a weekly meeting with the manager, and legally we need to state clearly that this is in fact not an official document. Anything agreed to here is null and void. Sorry. But at least that was deliberate, unlike when Cincinnati FC announced new coach Jaap Stam alongside an image of Ajax youth coach Tinus van Tunnenbroek. Of course their rivals took the opportunity to take the mick. Columbus Crew welcomed Jason Statham, New York Red Bulls went for Mark Strong, and Vancouver Whitecaps offered best wishes to Dr. Evil. So you'd think that the MLS would have been extra careful when they announced the signing of Sergio Busquets with a picture and a caption, "All he does is win." But they used an image of his former Spain teammate Alvaro Arbeloa instead, although they did follow it up by admitting their mistake. When Tottenham revealed new signing Matt Doherty, it was announced with a brilliant video of him deleting an old tweet that said, "I love Arsenal forever and ever and ever," as he grew up an Arsenal fan. Birmingham City changed their name to Small Heath Alliance on one weekend to celebrate their roots in a match against Huddersfield Town, and after their win Huddersfield tweeted that it was a comfortable win on the road against the Leaky Blinders, which Birmingham beat back with in a different match. The BBC once showed Manchester United a rubbish on their ticker, which they later apologised for. Gael Clichy once scored from the halfway line, which he revealed was down to one of the club's fans telling him on Instagram that the goalkeeper tends to stray off his line. And finally for this part, no apologies for me being immature, as when Wraith Rovers announced that Liam Dick had signed a contract extension, they did so with a tweet that said Dick extension, which is what all those emails say that I keep getting. On to sponsors now. Winamax should probably change their name to Losermax as they put out a series of tweets mocking Bordeaux, who promptly dropped them as sponsors. When the news was broken, they tweeted, "We've been looking for a good defence for an hour, but like the team, we can't find it." Epic burn by Winamax, who are no strangers to controversy when they sponsored Granada, who were left fuming after a similar tweet mocked the team's performance with this oddly shaped heat map. And La Liga offered sponsorship to a Welsh team as part of an initiative called Power of Our Football. Shame that the team that sponsored was Club Peldrod. Oh, you're joking, that's their full name. Oh, I'll give up. How did they say it on the weather forecast?
Just up the road from Llanfair Pwllgwyngyll go get a Quindrobble, Llantysilio go.
Yeah, that's the one. On the German equivalent of the Chase, one contestant was given the question, which club won the second division championship in 2018-19 season? He knew the answer but refused to answer it as the Borussia Mönchengladbach fan couldn't bring himself to say the name of their biggest rivals, Cologne, losing out on some cash. If you were born around the start of 2010, then you may be an Iniestazo. Andres Iniesta's goal against Chelsea in 2009 fired Barcelona to the Champions League final, but he's also said to have caused a spike in birth rates in Catalonia, with these babies being known as Iniestazos. Iniesta even phoned one of them up once and wished them a happy conception day on the anniversary of the match. Bit weird though, mate. Schalke winger Rabbi Matondo had to apologise to fans after being seen wearing the shirt of their biggest rivals Borussia Dortmund during a gym session, as he borrowed the shirt from Jadon Sancho. And Didier Lamkelzee did something similar, although he did it deliberately, as in an attempt to force a move away from Antwerp to Panathinaikos, he arrived to training wearing the shirt of their biggest rivals, Anderlecht. Security staff prevented him from entering the building and he later apologised on social media. And Corinthian striker Joe was fined by his club for wearing a pair of green boots, the colour of their rivals Palmeiras, which seems a little harsh. When the Egyptian FA were devising plans to build a museum, it was only then that they realised they'd lost their AFCON trophy, which was later explained had been destroyed in a fire, apparently. More pro excuses for the time that Italy manager Roberto Mancini accidentally dropped Giorgio Chiellini from the Nations League squad for a match, by explaining it was my fault, they showed me the lineup, I didn't have my glasses on and just said it was fine. I didn't notice that Acerbi was there rather than Chiellini. More selection problems for Internacional ahead of their title deciding match against Flamengo, when the Brazilian side had to pay an additional fee of 1 million real if they wanted to play Rodinei, who was on loan from their opponents. One fan paid the fee himself in order to give his side the best possible chance of winning the league. So how did Rodinei repay the favour? By getting sent off in a 2-1 defeat. But at least his manager knew who he was, unlike Everton manager Carlo Ancelotti, who didn't know who Luke Garbett was despite being at the club 11 years.
Who? Luke Garbett.
Sorry, but I am surprised about this question. I don't know.
Right.
But at least Garbett saw the funny side when he posted a video on social media to Carlo with possibly the worst highlights video of any professional player ever. And similar shenanigans to Man United manager Louis van Gaal when he introduced the new signing Mike Smalling.
Mr. Mike Smalling.
Chris, could I...
Oh, Chris, sorry.
When the K-League kicked off without fans during COVID, FC Seoul had the genius idea of placing life-size dolls in the empty stands to give the impression of a crowd, which seemed a good idea until TV viewers spotted that the club had used sex dolls. The club said no, they're not sex dolls, they're premier mannequins. They couldn't really argue when some of the dolls are holding up signs advertising adult websites. The club were fined a league record $81,000 for the error. Over in Scotland, Fort William had a problem with a different kind of fan when they said that their ultras are no longer welcome unless they're accompanied by a parent due to some recent dodgy behaviour. Yes, really. And one fan who didn't want to go to his team's match was Charlton boss Dean Oldham, who's a season ticket holder at Man United. And when United beat his Charlton team in the Cup, he received an email inviting him to reserve his ticket for the semi-final, which is just kicking him while he's down. Southend United were forced to rename one of their stands after a sponsorship deal, as when they partnered with local estate agent Gilbert and Rose, the team renamed one section of their stadium the Gilbert and Rose West Stand, which isn't a good look to name a stand after a serial killer. And for those of us that have ever had to use trees for goalposts in a local park, spare a thought for Austrian team Austria Klagenfurt, when they were unable to play home games after 300 trees were planted on the pitch by a Swiss artist for some reason. So I guess they had to forfeit their games 3-0. Okay, that was bad, I'll leave it now. Just like when Real Madrid were drawn against their own reserve team in the final of the Copa del Rey, Finnish team Ilves were drawn against their own reserve team in the Cup. And unlike Madrid, who showed no mercy to their own reserves, Ilves lost 2-1 with a ridiculous own goal in the 96th minute. Players with the same name as clubs fascinate me, like when Spanish team Ibiza signed Juan Ibiza, Bradley Stokes played for Bradley Stoke Town FC, no I'm not joking, and Scottish Premiership team Ross County signed Ross Doohan on loan from Celtic. Not that amazing until you realise he was the 5th player named Ross in Ross's squad, just like the time that Arbroath had 3 players named Hamilton in their starting lineup for their match against Hamilton, who themselves had Jamie Hamilton at right back. Then there's those who share the team's nicknames, such as Matt Sadler, who manages the Sadlers, Graham Potter, who played for the Potters, Martin Fox played for the Foxes, Steve Bull played for the Bulls, Liam Trotter played for the Trotters, John DeWolf played for Wolves in the 90s, kind of bending the rules a bit with that one. And special mention for Mark Robbins, who not only saved Alex Ferguson's job, but played for the Robins, and as he once scored against Swindon, who were also known as the Robins, it meant that Robbins scored for the Robins against the Robins. On the subject of appropriate names, at one point Maccabi Tel Aviv had 2 players named Tal Ben Haim, and they even called them 1 and 2. Fulham once replaced John Collins with Collins John. Ivan Toney was banned for betting offences and his initials are iBet. Strikers had a difficult time getting past Belgian centre-back Mark de Man. Etienne Green was a keeper who played for Saint Etienne, who play in green. Or when it was Ramadan and Riyad Mahrez was fasting, and the Leicester team sheet read Mahrez can't drink water. Not sure why a Ghanaian defender was so naughty, but that's his name. Wolfgang Wolf was a manager of Wolfsburg, and Fabian Nürnberger played for Nürnberg, which also has the team name on the back. And lastly, some less than desirable names such as Danny Shitu, which was a name that described how good he was. Raphael Scheidt, who was once named the 2nd worst transfer of all time, but wisely chose to use his first name on his shirts as he didn't want to confirm to the fans that he was in fact Scheidt. And this guy, which is not only pronounced Osama bin Laden in Spanish, but he has a brother named Saddam Hussein. I wish I was joking. A player in the French amateur leagues made a penis of himself when he was banned for 5 years for biting an opponent in a place where no man should ever be bitten, unless you choose to pay for that sort of thing. An injury that needed 12 stitches. Someone else who made a penis of himself was commentator Bobby Bullock during an online stream of Hamilton against Ross County, when he was late to press the microphone button for the second half, which isn't that big of a deal, but came out with this absolute gem.
I hadn't pressed the button, I went away for a job at half time. Excuse my term of language, and I've not pressed the wee button on when I come back, so apologies to anybody who have not heard me this second half.
Apologies if you deem that bad language, viewers.
Yeah, sorry, it was just a wee bit of poop, and I was a wee bit late back over.
Yes, that's the commentator saying he'd gone for a bit of a poop, and he then followed it up with the fact that he had to squeeze quite a bit before saying he'll get back to the match. The club said afterwards that they didn't find this funny and the person will not be used again, which I guess means that the wee jobby cost Bobby his jobby. He probably needed a beer after that, and luckily Leo Messi had 644 of them, as when he scored his 644th Barcelona goal, breaking Pele's record for goals at a single club, although Pele's total will probably change next week. Budweiser produced that many individually numbered bottles of beer and sent them out to the 160 goalkeepers that he scored past, with Iker Casillas receiving 17 of them, Jan Oblak getting 10, but spare a thought for Gigi Buffon, who only got 2. When Sporting sold Joe Mario to Inter in 2016, they inserted the rivals clause into his contract, stating that they'd be owed an extra €30 million if he was later sold to a Portuguese club. To avoid this, the player allegedly bought out his own contract for €7 million, which was then reimbursed by his new Portuguese club, Benfica. Unsurprisingly, as they were $30 million short, Sporting said to him, "That's not Super Mario," and took the case to court. A couple in France were banned from calling their child Griezmann and Mbappe after a judge said it wasn't allowed, and 2 brothers were sent off in the same day in Scotland when brothers Max and Blair Curry were sent off in separate matches 40 minutes apart from each other. Very suspicious. Both brothers should have just said alert, which is something that Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta is drilling into his players in an unusual way, when he hired a team of pickpockets to demonstrate to his players the importance of always staying alert. At the end of a pre-season dinner, he asked his players to stand up and empty their pockets, at which point various players realised they had shit missing. I'm assuming they got their things back, but the article didn't say. And finally, off the back of Bayer Leverkusen winning their first ever league title last season and doing it in style, finishing unbeaten, it got me wondering which other teams across Europe's leagues have done the same. Stick around for some funny plot twists. No other teams in Germany have ever done it, so it's over to England where it's happened twice. Arsenal in 2004 and Preston just 315 years before that. It's also happened twice in Spain in the space of 3 years, with Bilbao in 1930 and Real Madrid, who else, in 1932. It's never happened in France yet, and so over to Italy where it's happened 3 times, Milan in 1992, Juventus in 2012, which they probably paid for, and another time which I'll get to shortly. But some of the most bonkers unbeaten runs are surely Perugia in 1979, when they still finished second due to drawing 2/3 of their matches, and Benfica and Galatasaray both went unbeaten but missed out on goal difference, which also happened to Red Star Belgrade in 2008. But the women's game is what must surely be the most bonkers unbeaten run of them all, and I'll be honest, I know absolutely jack shit about women's football, but this was too mad not to include. With Engelholm not only being unbeaten all season, but didn't concede a single goal, and as their keeper scored a penalty during the season, that meant she finished with more goals scored than conceded. But despite this and not conceding a goal, they still finished second by a single point. And we'll gloss over the name of the team that finished 6th too. And that's all folks, wishing you all an awesome 2025, get subbing if you haven't already, like this video so that YouTube knows you like my shit, which I assume you do if you've got this far. Watch these videos on screen because they're awesome, you're awesome for watching, and see you later.